Good day, everyone. I am Ayla M. Palanggalan, and this is the report of Group 4. Scott Ray's 7-step to moral reasoning model. Scott Ray's model for moral reasoning presents a 7-step approach to moral analysis and evaluation. It is oriented towards virtues and principles with consideration of consequences as a supporting rule. This model is free from cultural, ethnic, and religious background and biases, though it is consistent or uses biblical principles. The 7-step model is as follows. Number 1, gather the facts. Number 2, determine the social issues. Number 3, determine what virtues or principles have a bearing on the case. Number 4, list the alternatives. Number 5, compare the alternatives with the virtues or principles. Number 6, consider the consequences. And number 7, make a decision. First, we will discuss the first step of moral reasoning. Gather the facts. The simplest way of clarifying an ethical dilemma is to make sure the facts are clear. In order to give a strong answer to the questions regarding the ethical dilemmas, you must not only or simply collect data or information, but to make it sure that it has basis and scientifically proven if possible. Do you have the facts that are necessary to make a good decision? What do we know? What do we need to know? In this light, it might become clear that the dilemma is not ethical but about communication or strategy.
The second step is determine the ethical issues. For example, the trigger event is identifying and setting up the ethical problem. Every ethical problem has more than one component, and that not every component involves an ethical decision. For instance, we should be able to separate a client's right to advertise from a possible ethical problem involving the way the product is to be advertised, and the issue should be stated clearly. The question is not whether the client should advertise, but whether the client should advertise in a particular manner that might be ethically problematic. The third step is choose a principles which have a bearing on the case. First is who are the stakeholders. It is important to identify the stakeholders who will be affected by the ethical decision to be made. This is also the first point at which ethical theories might be applied, since the idea of moral stakeholders can be tied both consequential and non-consequential theories. For example, from a utilitarian perspective, the interests of the majority must be taken into consideration. Therefore, the majority stakeholders must be recognized as a group. Non-consequential theories require us to aware of all stakeholders potentially affected by our decision. Recognize duties like justice, gratitude, self-improvement, and etc. allow us not to only list stakeholders but also to decide on who they are. For example, if as a reporter you are obligated by the duty of fidelity to honor your implied contract with the public to give them the news you want them to read, that reading public must be listed as a stakeholder in your decision.
Number 4. List the alternatives. Creatively determine possible courses of action for your dilemma. Some will almost immediately be discarded, but generally, the more you list, the greater potential for coming up with a really good one. It will also help you to come up with a broader selection of ideas. Number 5. Compare the alternatives with the virtues and principles. This step eliminates alternative as they are weighted by the moral principle which have bearing on the case. Potentially, the issue will be resolved here as all alternatives except one are eliminated. Here, you must satisfy all the relevant virtues and values. So at least some of the alternatives will be eliminated, even if you still have to go on the step 6. Often, here you have to weigh principles and values. Make sure you have a good reason for each weighting.
Number 6, consider the consequences. So, if principles have not yielded a clear decision, then we have to consider the consequences. So, in this step, we have to consider the remaining available options or alternatives, but we have to weigh it informally. So, some positive consequences may be beneficial and some negative consequences may be more detrimental. When we say detrimental, it is harmful or dangerous. So the positive and negative consequences must be considered. For example, there is a lover, Sunny and Rage. Sunny came from a wealthy family while Rage came from a middle-class family. So Sunny's family didn't actually like Rage, but then she fought for him and married him. So Rage was working in a publishing house and noticed that his boss had an interest on him. And then one day, his boss, Marge, acted differently and to the point that she was going to seduce and harass Rage. And then, that is the time when Sunny's sister came to the publishing house to get some papers, and she caught the act with her mouth wide open. So she was taken aback and mistook the situation. He rushed home and talked to her family about what she saw. So Sunny thinks that Rage was cheating on her. So Sunny's mom told her that she can go to America, or she really have to go to America to avoid the stress, as she was 2 months pregnant by that time, and she was about to tell Rage that she was 2 months pregnant. But then this dilemma came, and then her mom told her to live in America, and she can come back when after she gave birth. So in this step number 6, consider the consequences. So we have 2 options. So option 1 is that Sunny may inherit stress and lose her baby, as she was exposed to a difficult situation. And then option 2, Sunny will follow her mom. She'll go to America with her baby, leaving her husband perplexed. So number 7, make a decision. So there are no easy and painless solution to a problem. Moral reasoning is said to arrive either right or wrong, valuable or not valuable. So in the situation, or in the given example, option number 2 is chosen. So Sunny will follow her mom. She'll go to America for the meantime until she gave birth to her child, and then with of course leaving his husband perplexed. So the decisions made by following the steps or the process may shock anyone, but it is ethically reasoned. To sum this 7 step of moral reasoning, modeled by Dr. Scott Ray, so this is the model for making ethical decisions on moral matters through reason and impartiality. Impartiality means it is not biased, or the decision made will equally affect the situation. So we cannot really decide urgently to a situation without thinking of the outcomes critically. So we have to follow the process. So do not just jump on a conclusion.